Welcome to the Clack Shack, and it's Friday afternoon. I've got off work, getting ready for the weekend, and the bulk of my laser engraving I do on the weekend. So typically, I try to make sure I clean my machine and lube everything up before I go into the weekend. Now, for those of you that saw my video that I did of putting the air assist on, I haven't thoroughly cleaned this machine since I installed the air assist, but I've heard a lot of speculation and rumors about if you don't clean it every day or every 2 hours or whatever, that the air assist nozzle will stop up. I haven't seen any issues with this one. I've got the XTool air assist, and I've been running it. I've cut a lot of hat patches this week and engraved the same. I've done a total of 3 stove cover engraves, which are 2.5 3-hour burns. I've cut a whole bunch of smaller pieces and done a few small engraves this week during the week while I've been coming out here in the afternoons. And so it is really dusty out here because this is a workshop. There's dust from sanding, there's dust from just dust. The sawdust gets everywhere. Sometimes I weld, I cut metal. I mean, it's a mess. So this is probably the worst environment that you can have a laser in, especially. I don't use a full enclosure, so that doesn't keep the dust out. I preferred it this way. I have entertained enclosures, but I prefer mine to be open where I can access it and just don't have a big enclosure in the way. So today what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break this thing down. I'm gonna kind of go a little step by step on what I'm doing. This is what I've done with mine since I got it, and I've had it since right after they came out, I guess, back in, was it October or whatever. I ordered a 10 watt. So I'm gonna rip this thing down, clean it, and show you what I'm doing and what I'm cleaning, and I'm gonna put it back together after I've cleaned it and put some lubricant on it and just walk you through the steps. The biggest thing is I'm gonna get to the bottom of whether this thing gets dirty that easily or not. I run my air assist anytime I'm engraving, cutting. If there's a diode light coming out of that hole, I've got my air assist on. I think that's the way it was intended to be ran, and so that's what I do. But I'm gonna get to going to breaking this thing down. The first thing that I will tell you, as far as before you do anything, I recommend strongly that you go ahead and remove the power and the USB cable if you're using it. That's not just, I'm not worried about anybody getting electrocuted. This thing, I don't believe there's enough electricity in here to electrocute you. The thing that I'd be concerned about is if you do use a conductive spray or something to clean and you get it in the wrong place, it could cause a short or cause some circuitry to be damaged. And the second thing is if you're around this thing or if you're moving it trying to disconnect things, there's potential that you hit these ports and damage those ports. So that's the primary reason why I like to do that, and that gives me a lot more flexibility of being able to move it around and everything too. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my laser head is high enough off the deck to start with before I do any of this. Hello, Fluffy. You're going to have to get down there, sweetie. But Fluffy's wanting to come help. But what I typically do, these are the rags, same rags I use in my shop for like most anything, staining or just cleaning or whatnot. And what I typically do is kind of the same process as cleaning a PC or a computer. You don't really want to put this cleaner and start spraying it everywhere. So what I do is the same as they tell you if you've been to any kind of computer maintenance or anything like that. You don't necessarily want to spray the cleaner, especially if you're using just straight alcohol, you could, but this is just more or less a glass cleaner that I keep out here in the shop. It works on pretty much anything. It is alcohol based because it evaporates kind of fast, but it's not straight alcohol. It does have water in it, and water can be a pretty good conductor, so I try to avoid using water. And so all I really do is wipe everything thoroughly. Like I said, take the rags, put the cleaner on the rag so you don't have it just dripping everywhere. And then I just wipe it down. And like I said, I don't work for XTool. So this process may not be what they tell you to do. There may be other ways of doing it. I can tell you that in my training in IT, you know, they tell you don't do this, don't do that, and use this and don't use that. And I have kind of taken my IT training and applied that to this, because it is basically a computer with a few mechanical pieces to it. All of these little stainless steel rails, you're gonna have to really make sure you get all the crud out of there. Like I said, this is a couple of weeks worth of use, and so mine had done gotten pretty dirty. But I just take and fold the rag up and try to get in there and get in as many of those little nooks and cracks as I can. Sometimes, like there's this one little tray that runs the length of this machine right here that trash will get in. And the one thing that I have found that works pretty good for getting that trash out, that I know all of you have, and you're gonna need it for another phase of this anyway, it'll build me another XTool box. I keep getting more and more XTool parts and tools and junk. We'll go ahead and get my little lube there out. But this little small Allen wrench that takes the shield off, it works pretty good, especially if you kind of just take your rag and basically use this thing kind of like a Q-tip, but smaller. And there's a little valley that runs right beside these rods. It'll get gunk and trash down in it, and it's hard to get it out. But if you take that Allen wrench and put it around the rag, you can actually kind of wipe that in there and get that stuff out. And that's what I'm doing there. And I'm going all the way as far to the edge as I can. I go back and forth both directions. And you'll still occasionally, like I got a little piece of garbage here that ain't wanting to come out, just dust and stuff built up. I have a handy dandy airline, and so anything gets stuck in those little holes, I can just kind of blow it out of there. So, but over and behind this bottom rail, there's also a little crevice back there that'll hold stuff. And if you get any big pieces of debris from your cuts, if you're doing any real fine cuts, it'll get back in there. And as you can see, there's a lot of crud in that one. And the bar on the top, just because you can't see it from looking over in it, there's a bar on the top. And as you can see, that it's dirty. And I just got a big clump of stuff off of it. But under the bottom of this ridge right here, there's another one of those metal bars that runs the length of it. And it looks exactly like the one under the bottom. Now, I find that it doesn't get dirty as bad, but it will get dirty because as those bearings turn, any debris that's on there is going to kind of get smashed to it. So I strongly recommend reaching under there and cleaning that one real good. It'll probably not be near as dirty as the others, but it still needs to be cleaned, doesn't need to be neglected anyway. But I'm gonna once I get all these rails cleaned and get all the little pieces of debris and everything out, we'll do the laser head itself. See, there was a little crud in the crevice on this side. I just kind of raked it out with that Allen wrench. Like I said, a little dirt down in that crack's really not gonna be a problem, but if you get a piece of wood or something in there, I would definitely get that out, because you never know when the air assist may cause it to move and it can get in a bad spot. Make sure that you go all the way to the front and the back with your gantry so that you can clean all the way to the back, because that seems to be where all of my debris ends up. It's back here toward the back of the machine. So that's gotten that part. Across here, there's also another one of these bars. You can feel it up under here. So there again, don't neglect those just because you can't see them. A lot of times I hear people talking about they're getting a shutter and when it goes back and forth. I think a lot of times that's a timing issue, but some of them I would dare to say that sometimes it may be that there's enough trash under this bottom rail here that it could cause it to bind a little as it moves back and forth. One other thing that I like to do, and this is just me, is these belts tend to, the back of them tend to get dust on them. And so what I try to do is just gently move the gantry and wipe the back of the belt, and you can see that debris come off the back of the belt. I would probably avoid using alcohol to do that because it is rubber, and it'll dry it out and dry rot it. So that's kind of one of those things that you need to consider. But I like to get the dirt off of the back of it because it does get in these rollers where it turns. And the way I usually clean those is I simply just lay my finger on top of that roller where that belt goes around. You just move it back and forth a little, and you can get that crud off there. If you look in the very back of the machine, you'll see where the belt goes around those bearings. As long as it's just dust, it probably isn't going to hurt anything. But my thing is, if you get dust on there, it's gonna cause other debris to start sticking to it as well. So I like to just wipe those down periodically to keep everything running smoothly. These little the bearings on the head itself right here, what I'll typically do is just put me a little spray on my rag, and I'll hold it on the top of this little bearing and just kind of move the machine, and not enough to make that wheel slide, but just let it turn back and forth to try to get any dirt that may be stuck in those little bearings and get that out of there. Because if it gets stuck, I'm gonna try to leave my air assist hooked up while I do this. But if you stand it up like this, you can see the little bottom wheel a little better. And like I said, I just hold my rag and kind of move this over just to make sure that if there's any dirt in there, I get it off. There's a few little crevasses in here that doesn't hurt to wipe down, but my belt tension still looks good. Now we're going to take the head off of this thing and get to the bottom of the air assist really quick, because I want to know. I haven't noticed any degradation of my cutting ability, but I keep hearing a lot of people say it stops up really bad. So, and guys, even though it's the afternoon and we've got a thunderstorm coming in, it is still hot as Hades out here. So there's the tip. It does have a little debris around the hole. Looks like there may be a little in it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to take that off, and I really don't want to take that off because it's a it's a pain to put back on. But I guess I'm going to do it just for the sake of checking it to see if there's a problem, because I really want to know. I don't like messing with this clip on the back of this laser head. These wires back here just, it concerns me that I'm going to break something trying to go in and out of here. So that's one reason why I'm not really a fan of taking this thing around and taking it off a whole lot. It's not exactly a quick connect back there. All right. So I'm gonna have to get me some tools to get this loose with. Be right back. All right, so we'll start by taking this air assist connector here out. It's not any debris made it back that far, so that's good. And I also have saw a few folks talking about the air assist nozzle and it blocking the laser and whatnot. And I had a little discussion last night with a fellow on Facebook, and I'm gonna have to say I was incorrect on the way that thing goes. One of those screws does go in front of the laser, but I haven't not noticed it obstructing anything. So If that was you, yeah, apparently the screw does go in front of that, but I haven't had any problems with it blocking anything. Because I remember now that you did have to turn it that way. So whoever that was that we were having that discussion, I was not correct on that. It was late and I didn't feel like coming out here and looking. So I'm gonna drop this Allen wrench down in this fan to keep from spinning her so fast, because it is known that this can damage computer fans. And I'm just gonna blow with my compressed air. Blow that back grill out and get any dirt, dust that's down in here out. And now I want to take this off, because and the reason I did that is because typically I'll blow some pressure down through here without taking this off. I don't take this off every time I clean my machine. So I wanted to do that so that if there is any dust in here, if that blows it out and cleans it, then I don't have to take this off every time. So now I'm going to need that other little Allen wrench, and I've got to build me a bigger box for all this stuff. So I'm going to back these screws here out. I didn't over tighten mine when I put it together, because I didn't want to mess that tape up that you had to put on here. And mine was pretty snug without the screws. So pull that off and have a look, see. And it's kind of hard to see in there, so I'm gonna get me a light. Okay, as far as inside the cone itself, there's a little bit of white, like powdery residue down near the end, which is that same powdery residue I see on this end. So yeah, that's not, I mean, considering the hours of use that I've put on it and how far that is from the actual laser head, I'm not really concerned. Everything looks good here. There's no dust or anything up inside the laser itself. So yeah, I'm satisfied with that, and I don't know that I'll ever be able to get this to where you can see it. But there's a look at the hole. If I can get it to where you can see through there. Maybe I'll take some pictures of it and put in there. I guess I could do that. Where's my phone? See if I can grab you a couple of photos. But I need to stick my flashlight right there where I can do this, and I'll take a couple of photos so you can see what I'm looking at and try to drop them in the video at the appropriate time. And I'm going to take a picture of this little bit of it almost looks like tarnish on the end of the laser, on the end of the device. So get it turned. All right, I'll drop those inside the video so that people can see them. And this storm has got the humidity out here just raging, guys. A little bit of almost like some charring or something stuck to it. That's probably where the fumes are coming back up. It probably is causing it to a little bit of the fumes to stick to it, but it's not obstructing the hole. So I think I'm good with that. Just for good measure, before I put it back on, in case I did knock something down in the cone, blow that out. But that's uneventful, guys. I was really expecting, from what I've been hearing, I was expecting to open this thing up and it just be, you know, gobs and gobs of stuff in there. But considering I've probably got a total of about 14 hours of burn time, not 14 hours of the machine being on, but 14 hours of burn time since I put this on. I was expecting a little more debris than that from all the nightmare stories I've heard. So I will say this, I think one thing is that I think the folks that are having problems with buildup, I strongly believe that is associated with having the nozzle on there and not having positive air pressure blowing through that hole, I can see where that would cause the smoke and the vapors and the ash and stuff from the burn to travel up through that cone, and when it got inside there, it would kind of circulate, and of course the particles could come out of the air while it was in there circulating, and could stick to the metal, and I could see that. So I would say that I would strongly recommend that either if you get an air assist, either run it and use it all the time, or take it off. That would be my thing with this XTool one, especially because there is no low, medium, or high or anything like that. There is simply on or off. And my stance on that is, and like I said, not a professional here, this is my personal opinion, but I know I have been running this thing for close to 2 weeks now, and this is the first cleaning that it has gotten since I put the air assist on, and that air assist nozzle was remarkably clean, except for that very, very tip, which that, splashback from the actual engraving process. So, but it's not enough to concern me. But that would be my advice is, if you're going to get an air assist, if you're running the diode, if you're engraving, cutting, or whatever, if you're running the diode, then I would run the air assist. And I can tell you that my particular setup, using that ideology, I had very, very, very little debris anywhere other than just on the exterior right here. There was just a tiny amount on the lip of that hole, but I had very little debris. So that's going to be my recommendation, and for whatever it's worth or not worth. But if you've been concerned about that, like I said, I'm here to tell you that it's not as bad as I thought it could be. So I'm pleased with it. But anyway, I'm not going to bore everybody with me putting my machine back together. I keep hearing the debate, I guess you could say, and I'm one of those type guys that I'm not really going to just take somebody else's word for it, especially when I have the capability of performing a bit of a scientific experiment to determine whether there's any validity to it or not. And so I just decided that I was going to run mine for a couple of weeks and just, not even blow it out or do anything to it in between jobs, and try to see what the outcome was. And this cover has never, since I've got this cover, I can't get this thing straight. It's almost as if the guy whose job it was to put the hole in that didn't get it exactly where it needed to be. So I'm gonna get this thing somewhat lined up, just enough to where maybe it'll keep me from going blind. It almost looks like the cut's not square. But anyway, I'm gonna get that in there to where maybe it'll keep me from going blind if I forget my glasses one day, and we're gonna go back together with this thing. But appreciate you stopping by. Hope this helps somebody. One more before I leave. One more place that you need to clean is this guy. That thing does get dirty, and what that is that's just that little dovetail that the head slides up and down in. I've never really seen anybody else mention this, and some of you may want to do it, you may not want to do it, or perform your own little scientific experiment and decide if you want to do it or not. But the one thing that I have been doing, and it seems to make life a little easier on me, is let me mix this stuff up. This stuff separates really, really bad. Is I'll take, and for you Glock guys out there, a little dab will do you. But I just put me just a little bit of this grease on this dovetail right here. It makes it slide up and down so much better when you put this back together. So, and then of course, you're gonna wanna take and wipe a little thin layer, and all I do is I put a little bit on my finger and I wipe all of these bars, all 4 bars, with just a little bit of this grease. And like I said, a little is all you need. You put too much on there and all you've done is created a big dust magnet. And next time you clean it, you're gonna have big clumps of dust instead of small clumps of dust. So, but that's my recommendation, and I hope it helps some of you that maybe have no clue. Like I said, don't take what I'm telling you as being the only way of doing it. By all means, if you know of a better way, or if you come up with a better technique or whatever, that's your prerogative. But I hear a lot of people asking what to clean, what to check, what to look at. I've had this thing for 8-9 months now, going on 9 months, and that's all I've ever done to it. And I've never had a problem with mine. I mean, I keep it up, I use it, and I'm not in the best of environments. So if you're in a dust-free environment, or have yours in a big nice enclosure and keep the dust away from it, then you're probably better off than I am. And I haven't broke this thing now in the 8 or 9 months of use, and I promise you I have used this thing a lot. But that's my take on it, and I hope it helps you out. And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a comment, or you can message me in one of the Facebook groups. But that's going to conclude today's video. And by the way, feel free to hit the subscribe button. That'll be much appreciated. And have a good day.